To fling any dope over there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Well, I meant down there on the ground.
Oh yeah. I'll flip it right
It's
over.
in the low spot.
Okay guys, I see that you might have got jolted by the first try on the upload of the stream, but I couldn't get it to take, so redid it. We are out in the garage. Can I get a mason jar? I need to make up some clear. How much white do you normally put in this?
Just a spoonful. Like you dip a stir stick down in it and don't let it drip off, and then just sort of stir it around. So it's not very much at all. That's your leftover stuff, that's crystal clear.
I'm gonna need another jar. Two jars. I need to.
Use that one you just took. I had that little bit in it, and this is thinned. So you got to remember that that's already thinned 50% there. And then I'd use that for your base coat. I'd just fill that up. I'd fill that up to, like right in here, and then add thinner to it. Here's a key for that can, if you can.
That's what I was looking for.
And here's a dipping cup, so you don't have to get the shit all over the can. And I guess if we're live, I'll continue on with this stuff. This is just...
Yeah, but go over there in front of the camera.
Can we just move it back or something? Okay, this is just part of our test pieces. That's nothing more. I'm starting to put clear on it. This is Randolph clear, thin 50%. So there's a half a jar of unthinned dope, then and then filled back up with thinner. So it's 50-50. So first coat on our test pieces, we're only going to do one side just like you would if you build an airplane and we're covering your airplane. Yeah, it sure is. I wonder.
You just pour it out. Where's our crack
Well, any one of those that are empty. So these are just going to get 3 coats of this clear 50-50 mix. And then we'll put our tissue paper, our Japanese tissue, carbon fiber, AA silk span, and medium weight silk span. We'll put that on there, and then we'll coat it 3 to 6 times. We're not sure what we want to do with that, whether we want to include what would be equivalent to the paint on the surface or what. So, and that's the first coat of that. Give it 10 or 15 minutes to dry, and then we'll put another coat on it.
I guess I need to bring some mixing sticks from work.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 different mixing sticks on there, depending on what color you want to tint something. Where's my... Okay, that's cheap thinner.
So leave this out of the trash can. Pretty thinnery.
What is it?
Pick it out.
I'll just throw it in the trash. It'll be fine.
Don't throw no cigarette butts in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's thinner because it burns the crap out of my hands. So that's work thinner.
That's cheap thinner, probably.
What?
Hand me a couple of them paper towels while you're there.
Yeah, I can tell that's work thinner. Might be hard to get that again now that Jerry's not there. Steve's a dick.
That's typical. You know, I had a company, I knew the guy real well, and I was just trying to get something that hazmat shipped to me and use his company for a delivery place, and he wouldn't do it. I said, I was paying for everything up front, and all I had to do was put the shipping location of his commercial business, and then I'd come over there and pick it up from him. And wouldn't let me do it. I'm like, well, that's bullshit. Pardon my French.
Well, we can do that because I get all kinds of deliveries there.
You know, the only way, you know, you can't have you can get around hazmat fees a lot of times if you can have it shipped to a commercial building and it comes by semi-truck, but they won't do that to a residence. So, that's going to get thrown away because I don't know what's been in that. That's why I use all these pickle jars and cheese sauce jars and all that kind of stuff. Wash them out real good. Take a little bit of cheap thinner and stick in there and swish it around, throw it out, and then they're good to go, and you can just throw them away. Or we buy these inexpensive mason jars, which not super inexpensive. They're, what are they, $10 or $12 a case? And we get the quart size. You know, you can get half quart, pint size, quart size. Get just the plain ones. You get the fancy ones. They're a little bit more expensive. They work the same. I did buy a box of replacement lids, just the lids.
I need another dipper for the white.
But not the
I need another dipper out.
but not the rings.
You got a plastic small one. The 1 ounce.
For
Dipping white out.
white, just take your stir stick. This one's just has clear on one end of it. Won't hurt that white. Oh, you're opening up a new gallon?
That's not new. See, it's already down.
There's a half of one over there, or a third of one.
This was on my shelf, so.
That was the last one that we got.
Whatever.
And I just stir that around in there, and or you can wipe it off and then swirl it around and see what it does, and then, I mean, probably not going to be much more than that. It's just enough to make it give the illusion of being white. So you're not really adding a lot of pigment, which is where all your weight's at.
I think when I order thinner again from Wick, I'll order it 5 gallons. With a 5-gallon bill, that'd be 5 5. I think or $200 some. But
If you're going to paint, you need thinner, and you need more thinner than you need anything else.
you need the right stuff.
And you can't use crap thinner in your paint.
This is John
What-
Jordan's there.
We got a 5-gallon can of
I got thinner over there.
We got a 5-gallon can of cheap thinner that we use to clean brushes out and
That's $40 for 5 gallons.
wash, parts out, whatever, that's for the cheap stuff. So
Thinner.
the good thinner is the only thing that we use in our paints and our colors.
It's $50 a gallon.
Right there. See, that doesn't have a lot of white in it, but believe it or not, after 3 or 4 or 6 coats of that on there, your substrate, and then on your silk span, and then by the time you get 6 coats on there, it's starting to look white. So consequently, it takes less paint
Well, I wanted to try this right from the start.
in the end. You can adjust the amount of paint that you put in there, or color pigment, but I don't like to go with a lot because you're defeating the purpose then. Clear is your lightest color. So, really all we're trying to do is just give it a tint. It's about 75 degrees here right now. We got the next door lady in the background power washing everything in sight. I'm just putting on the typical coat of clear dope on this stuff, just like you would your bare airframe. Probably saw us if you watched the earlier video. We cut all these pieces out of the same piece of wood.
I think this is one of the grand.
I'm candling this as I put it on there because I want to try to put the same amount on every one of these. It's all coming out of the same jar. We'll continue to use this jar throughout this process. Probably won't get to the testing aspect, but we'll probably get the substrate put on there, the veil and all that stuff. Might be a little boring watching guys brush dope on.
Are you cooking? It's 1 pint. Let me get the mic on. The recipe is 1 pint of clear dope. Just enough pigment to turn that clear dope white. If you look over here, I've already brushed a coat of dope on the leading edge from the white can, but it really doesn't turn the wood white. It'll just start tinting it. I see what you mean about the hairs. And then a pint of thinner. You want that 50-50. You got a spot there. I got a spot there that's going to show. It's going to take some attention.
Typical.
This is just starting to get it hardened up.
Yeah, you'll have to come through and fix these little dingers where you get that tissue on there. And once it's sealed in tissue, it's all done. All you can do is add weight to it, to bondos and fillers and all that kind of stuff.
Like I say, I just wanted to get some dope on this today so I can 320 it, and get it.
Shedding?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it'll shed for the first year.
Good brush though.
Sig. $6.
So basically what I'm doing is just brushing on the first coat of clear, and we'll get this on, wait for it to dry a little bit, kind of knock it off with 320, turn it over. I'm going to try to get 3 coats on it today, but who knows. So if you don't want to watch guys dope, change the channel.
Yeah, it can be pretty boring. Yeah, I guess that's a disclaimer.
But this is what it takes to build model airplanes. It's basically time, repetition, attention to detail. If you don't pay attention to detail, it'll look like crap when it's done.
Normally when you're putting these 3 coats on your airplane, you're not trying to brush it out to where it's thinner and all get out. You're wanting to just sort of lay it on there and a little thick and let it soak in.
Trying to raise the grain.
Yeah.
Now I've heard that you can take ammonia on a rag and wipe over the wood and raise the grain.
You can put water on it and raise the grain too, for that matter. So I don't want to raise the grain with something outside, because as soon as you switch to some other medium, then it just raises it again. They keep battling it this way. If you just go with your dope on there, you've raised the grain, you put the coat on, raise the grain, you sand the fuzzies off. Put a coat on, raise the grain, sand the fuzzies off. Normally by the 3rd coat, the fuzzies are gone. And this ain't the same kind of fuzzies as what you get in polyspan, where they're harder and you can't sand them off, or you got to put super glue on it or something like that to get them to lay down, because you put the stuff on the inside out. This, since these are sample pieces, I'm not really worried about fuzzies on them, so I'm not sanding them in between.
Oh, come on.
That doesn't make any difference on this.
You gotta go for 20-point finish.
This is a strength test, not a beauty contest.
You gotta have a 20-pointer.
Might give it a light coat, light sanding. This is the third coat. We'll see how shiny it is.
Third coat with no dry time?
It's had 10 minutes in between coats. The only time you really need to let them sit and dry for 24 hours is if you're going to do some final sanding. You want it nice and hard. And it really won't be nice and hard that time. It takes forever.
I'll have good dreams tonight. Take this home, it makes the apartment smell like home.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you put the same amount of coats on both sides of the airplane. It will induce a warp. Let me tell you how I know. This is the hardest part of building a model, is the finishing stages, but it's the most satisfying, I think.
You start seeing your fruits of your labor. It can also be the hardest part to finish. I'm in the wrong pipe.
Now I only put one coat of dope on one side of that because it's wet. I can't turn it over, but this is dry or semi-dry. I could turn this over and do the other side while that's drying. You got a ball driver out here?
Nope.
I probably should take them doors out.
An Allen wrench. Doesn't have a ball end on it. Yeah, you don't want to glue your landing gear covers in there?
No, or the weight box. Let's see here. We got 8 watchers here. Glad to see John has the correct paint can opener next to your jar. Yeah, what, a hammer? Yeah. Church key.
Don't mess up your lids. Plus you got a bottle opener on the other end so you can open your beer up. Nothing like a nice cold long necker.
I bought a 24-inch crescent wrench at Harbor Freight the other day. And I'm standing in line, and the guy said, "What are you going to use that for?" I said, "Watch repair."
I got a couple. Those aren't my big ones.
That's pipe wrenches.
I got a 3-footer, a 3-foot crescent wrench. That long. You don't even want to go pick it up to have to use it because you got to put a pipe on it about 8 foot long to really use it. Got a big long tapered handle on it just for that. Their next door neighbors are getting ready for
got a knife up here.
Memorial Day because they're getting their flags and stuff out in their yards.
Seems like it's stuck in there already.
Yeah.
I haven't even doped over there.
A little tight, are they?
Yeah. Oh no.
Try to wedge a screw down in it and pull it out by the screw. I hope you didn't glue them in there. I have done that.
I don't know how it would glue in there. I didn't glue anything.
Have you ever had one of the, well, you probably have, one of the blind nuts?
There we go. Oh yeah, come undone.
Yeah, come undone. That right after you cover them, that's about the time that it does it. It falls out, and you hear this plink, plink, plink down in there. it's.
If you go back and watch the videos, I made big mention on how these are epoxied in, just for that reason.
Yep, yeah. Some people even laminate them in between a piece of 64th inch plywood and their light plywood base floor.
Probably a good.
And they can't, they're mechanically locked in there then, you know, you're not just relying. I've had them pop out epoxied in.
If you push on them, they will.
Yeah, oh yeah. Normally I'll take them right after I paint, right before I put it back together, I'll take a tap and run down in them and clean the dope out of them and stuff. And
what the heck, this one's stuck too.
They look a little tight.
There it is.
I might go ahead and just put these decals on this airplane while I'm out here.
The ones I made for you 2 months ago?
Yeah.
We got to get this laser. Okay.
Well, to me it was worth the try. Yeah, it was a big experiment. And I'm sure, you know, everybody knows, watching me and Sparky, we're all about trying to get as many appearance points as you can get, plus keeping it light. So the whole thing with the laser printer was to leave out a substance, which is the carrier paper and a decal. And so, you know, if you can, anytime you can leave something off, you save. Whether it's a grain of weight, 50 grains here and there weighs something. It doesn't take long before you start adding ounces, and trust me, in the finish, that's where you add that stuff at. It's all in the finish.
Yeah, as I've stated before, your second biggest weight in the airplane is the paint.
Yeah,
First is the engine, then is the paint.
that is for sure.
So this weight box came out of the airplane I crashed at Huntersville, so it'll fly again. And the wingtip and the bell crank and the adjustable lead outs came out of that airplane. So, are you bored yet?
To watch decal applications and painting. And it's not even spray painting.
Well, I turned them on you because it's more exciting to see an airplane in that state than an airplane in raw wood. So let's see some entertainment. God damn it!
I can't dance and I can't sing, so it's, oh my God, you definitely don't want to hear me sing. Only time I sing is when I get my radio headphones on, I'm out cutting the grass and nobody can hear me. Okay, let's put a little warm water in this.
It's a nice day for this kind of cleared open. I don't think it'd be a nice day for spraying.
No, it's about 68% humidity, almost 70. Getting up there.
Now, when you look at this airplane, we're using a tinted clear. You say, why did I tint it? In about 6 coats, the thing will start looking white. And the way I figure it, it'll take less white paint to get a white base on it if it's already white.
Yeah, go run your hand underneath that cold water for a little bit. That'll make you want to do something.
I can see this is going to need to be straightened out. Well, I don't know how long we've been running, but I'm coming up on the first coat of dope on it. And this doesn't include, fuselage gets built on the airplane. You know, it gets finished on the airplane. You can't really finish anything because you've got to take everything apart and glue it all back together and finish rounding, you know, fillets and etc. So you don't even worry about putting dope on fuselage wood. till it's together. I suppose you could, but okay. I'll take a breath, read the messages. We got 8 people watching. If you're not a member, hit that join button. I know times are tough, but Stunt Hanger needs you. You already cleared over those?
Oh yeah.
Okay, second coat on the rudder. No sanding yet. I mean, I could, but I guess I will. I'll go get the sandpaper. I'll be right back. Watch John. He'll keep you entertained.
This is a typical decal application.
I need to order another roll of this red. Can't believe I went through it so fast already. Let's go and get a closer look what John's doing. If the stream will stream over there, because we're in the garage and the reception's not really that great. There you go.
Probably hard to see that. I can't look at it upright because it's a far side of the airplane, but we'll get the other side here pretty soon. I just put this little eagle emblem. Now we'll turn it over. Get this side.
I'll come over tomorrow but I don't want to come over Monday, because what happens is it makes it seem like I haven't had any time off.
Mm-hmm. Shit.
I'm just not as young as I used to be, and I don't bounce back. Okay, gotta put that down. Are you sure that's enough white in there? It looks like it's doing anyway.
I said, mileage varies.
What?
Your mileage may vary. Oh, that's gonna be, I'm gonna end up having to take them off.
I have to double up on the white there.
They're not too bad. You see that? Little eagle here. American flag eagle. Sort of almost looks like a presidential seal.
Gonna put Obama on there?
No comment. In case you guys didn't know that, we put Bob Gieske in there. This is a Gieske Nobler. So we got Bob Gieske in there with his corncob pipe, a pilot figure. Not the best effort that I've done, but it's respectable, I suppose. I have to learn how to do the hair the better and eyes better and all that stuff. And you paint pilot, it certainly is a
When I get that done, tripod video.
certain knack that you got to have. Normally you'll get the eyes where they look like they're huge, big giant round eyeballs. And you can put goggles on them and stuff like that to try to hide that, which he's got sort of safety glasses on or goggles. Or put sunglasses or put a little piece of chrome monocoat over them or something and make them look like reflective sunglasses. Headphones. This pilot was one of those pilots that has the leather skull cap on, like, and World War II pilot, I guess, yeah. And I cut their heads off of them and put a stick in there and then turn their heads a little bit. And if you cut like right across the collar line, it cuts at a little bit of an angle. And when you turn it, sort of turns his head and it makes him look up a little bit. So it's not that staring in the headlights deer look, you know.
That's an outrage trick.
You know, and then glue it back on. It works great. And then I take and I cut a slit right where that little skull cap would go across his forehead, and I insert a piece of 64th inch plywood in there, about 1 inch by 1 inch, 3/4 by 3/4, and I leave it out long. And I glue that in with some epoxy and let it dry up real good. And then I sort of cut that little slot, I try to make it in a slight curve shape. And I'll mold that plywood a little bit with a curve in it before I glue it in there and shove it in there and glue it, let it dry. And then I sand it to shape. The reason why I keep it long, because a lot of times you'll sand the bill off too short, or you push it in there too short, and once you got it on there, there's no coming back. So leave it long and then start slowly sanding on it until it looks right, because you don't want it to look like a umpire's hat or something like that. You want it to look like a regular ball cap. And then I put his ear muffs are just little round pieces of balsa wood sanded and a little piece of construction paper that runs across the top, and it's all glued on individual pieces, painted and then glued on there, and makes for a nice little civilian sport pilot. It's different what you can buy, but it comes out pretty good. And then I've got gauges in there, 3 little gauges in there that I actually took some brass tubing and cut some little thin round pieces, and I actually peened over the edges of them a little bit to make them like hold the lens in. And from the back side I stuffed a little piece of plastic and then a gauge back in there, and then glued them in. And they come out pretty nice. But that's all the detail in there. There's no stick or no controls or no switches, or you don't need all that. It just adds more frustration, more dead weight that you're carrying around.
You need to make the pilot head go up and down with the elevator.
Oh yeah. All those little details that you add, the more you add, the more weight, the more grains. You'll see Pampa magazines, you'll see flight logs, you'll see all sorts of stuff floating around. I got Raby on his Mustang, he had a bunch of flight type airport documents and stuff. His airplane is P-51.
My Continental XL had the Model 8 airplane news from 1971 with the original Continental on it laying on the dashboard.
You always got to remember, start building these things. The wheel pants weigh so much, the wheels weigh so much.
The paint weighs so much. That's where it gets you, the paint.
Yeah, pretty much. I might end up putting 4 coats on all these. I think I'm going to sand this after this 3rd coat dries here, and then put one more coat on it.
Oh, I can't mention that word.
Wuhan virus. Oh. I don't see nothing wrong with that. Everything in our history's been named after something.
Yeah, don't talk about it. It's cold video. I really hate it that we're censored. Gotta watch what we say.
Yeah.
Some liberal.
You end up with a class action lawsuit. And you got the First Amendment right of free speech.
And they told you it's a private company. Make their own rules. Just like Facebook. And Facebook is getting bad. That's why you can go to Stunt and say what you want. I don't mind any discourse except for the name calling back and forth, because you know damn well them people wouldn't say that to the other guy's face.
That's the problem with this whole society, this computer-based society, is that it's easy to sit there on your computer in your mommy's basement and type in whatever you want. If they actually had to do that the old-fashioned way in purpose, a lot of them would be getting smacked. they'd be thinking twice about mincing, and they'd be mincing their words a whole lot better. All right, that's the third coat on those. I'm gonna sand them. I'm gonna let that dry, sand them, and I'll put one more coat on. So we'll have 4 base coats, which is typical, 3, 4 coats. You want to make sure you get a good glue base down. That's what it is. It's your glue to hold your covering on. You know, I think we sort of started going to 4, I guess, 4 base coats, 50-50, half thinner, half dope base coats, just because of tape pull-ups and stuff like that, we figured it better be used there and end up with a better finish than, you know, be crying down the line with a bunch of extra paint and you know, primer and repairs and stuff in the surface. So get the paper or whatever substrate you're using glued down really good. I guess we could turn this back around where you could see us. Barky there a little bit. You know, I can see it. It's probably hard to see on the camera, but you can see a little bit of white showing up in that. I threw a bag away to come flying through here, Barb. You were using them. Yeah, you can see it. You can see it in that green a little bit, just ever so see-through white. That's just one coat. This is the second coat on this side. That's all I ever put in mine is, you know, I dip that stir stick down in there and about 2 times, and it probably about a tablespoon, maybe a teeny bit more, of white paint. And by the time you get 6 coats or 7 coats on there, you'll start really seeing the white show up. This isn't acting as a primer or anything. This is just acting as a blocker, or, you know, just trying to start it going towards the color that you're going to paint. Now you can use any color in there. You don't have to use white. If you're going to paint your whole airplane navy blue, put some navy blue and tint your clear navy blue.
Yeah.
Red, whatever, orange, whatever color your 90% of your paint stuff's going to be.
Well,
3 bags.
Huh?
3 bags.
3 bags? Yeah, that's a lot of weeds.
this airplane's gonna be red and white, so I don't want to tint this thing's red, because then you can't paint white over it.
Right. So, well, your base color's white. So, your reds, anytime you use white as a base, all your colors pop. They're brighter. And if you use silver, it's another shade. If you use gray, it's another shade.
You use
If
silver,
you
you
use-
wasted your time.
If you use carbon fiber, you're basically painting your airplane black and trying to paint colors over black, so it takes more paint, unless you're doing a dark color. But still, you got to try to cover up that gray, that black carbon color, more paint. One manner, shape, or form, whether it's a primer or it's a color. Typical build.
Let me see if we still got battery going on that. Got 1 bar left. You get about 3 hours out of a pair of batteries on the transmitter.
And I went out there, I was looking for some AA NiCad batteries down at Walmart, or some of them rechargeable batteries for some outdoor lights, some cheap outdoor lights that we got. They're not AAA, they're actually AA, which would surprise me. And I couldn't find any. They were all out of them. So now I got to get some inkjet decal paper, order some of that in and redo all that. Back to the old way.
I found another sheet of decal paper.
Did you? I found if anybody's in there that's new to printing decals on an inkjet printer.
Hey, Alberto, buenos tardes.
It really isn't hard.
The Nobler has not been polished yet, Fred.
No, it doesn't even have any clear on it.
It's not a big Nobler, it's a Giske Nobler. And it is the same size as the original one. The paint is Randolph dope. And they love your paint job.
Thank you very much. It'll get some panel lines. And of course a pilot's name on there, and danger, prop arc, and some various little decals, step, no push, oil, stuff like that bounced around on it here and there. And then it'll get clear.
Yeah, it hadn't even been cleared yet.
No, it's bare bones.
Can't polish it yet, no clear.
No. We could tilt it up a little bit maybe and let you see a little. Well, you don't have it over here now, but see the lettering and stuff on there.
Show them your pilot, whatever, use your camera.
Let's see, I don't know if we can. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. The lighting in here isn't very good. And you can't, it's pretty hard. Yeah, we're getting a big glare off the lights. It's really hard to
And you won't get the glare.
see, maybe.
You gotta stand opposite of the glare.
Yep, it's still. They're coming in there. There you get it off. No, that's supposed to be Bob Gieske in there. I'm not even going to try for the gauges because there's just too much, not the right lighting out here. We're in the garage. It's
Will the paint not lock up the hinges? No. Either just All you do is break them back and forth.
No, my stuff's not glued in there. That's just stuck in there right now. I don't glue those in until I get all the clear off or onto them. I paint them all. You can either pull them out just a little bit and paint them while they're at, on the airplane, and then
He's
when
talking
you
about the hinges, I think, in these.
on those, I don't know. Sometimes they do a little bit. If you just work them as you're going along, it works pretty good.
Yeah, I glued mine in. You don't, but I do.
Well, they're glued in the moving surfaces. They're not glued in
Right.
to the main wing or the stab. But I leave the hinges completely out until after I get the wing and the flaps and all that stuff into color. You take a piece of tape and tape them things together.
And then it won't sit down in there because of the push rod and the.
I'll cut a big hole in it. I'm not going to use them again.
I use it to work on it.
Well, hole won't hurt that.
This is coat 2. I don't even know where they can hear me. I don't have a mic. Normally we're doing this in the wintertime when it's dark.
Yeah, a whole different kind of lighting. Actually, it's sort of a better lighting.
I don't think I'm going to have this one ready for the nap, do you?
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed. Would be hard pressed. That's pretty tight. This is sort of a fresh piece.
Yeah, sort of. Sort of. How long are you gonna let that stuff dry before we test it?
Probably until next weekend.
Yeah.
We'll get it on here. We'll let it all dry real good in one big piece so that everything doesn't start curling up or something. Keep it in these size pieces. And then we'll cut it next weekend and then do the test. Like we said, I'm gonna put one more coat of clear on this. We'll look at the shine on it. See how much of a glue base. This has got 3 coats on it right now, and it's really pretty good. I'm just gonna take the fuzzies off of it. It's the only reason why I'm sanding it. And then we'll let it air for just a little bit since I just opened up a new surface. We'll put another coat on it, let that dry, and see how the shine is, because that's your glue.
Look at my videos. Search my videos. Even this build, there's a video on the lost foam technique. It's real simple. I've got the Monado lost foam in there. I've got the Junar XL lost foam video in there. I have the Tucker build lost foam video. I probably need to go through them and rename them so they're easier to find. But
Once you've done a lost foam wing, it's hard to turn back to anything else because that's your jig, that's everything. There's no rods to use, there's no jig blocks to use, there's no special trailing edge piece to shim up the trailing edge and the tips. It's all done in the foam, the outsides of your foam cores,
yeah,
which are identical to your ribs.
I'll super fill this tonight.
Yeah, it normally takes 2 coats of that shit
No,
to get it in there, but if you get 1 coat starting it out and get the tissue on there, maybe it won't take as much for the second coat.
Yeah.
You always have to go over them, after you get them covered, because that's when everything pops. Starts popping, you start seeing all the little underlying
There is a ton of work to do from here.
faux pas. Oh yeah, this is just the beginning. You have to go around, make sure, double check all your edges. All these edges. Make sure all these edges are rounded off all the way into the attachment point. It's a mistake that a lot of guys make. I make it all the time. I sort of sand all the way here, and then I don't concentrate a little teeny bit right in these corners. And it shows. I mean, it's a faux pas. It's my fault. But the glue's in there, and it hardens that little surface area right there close to that joint, and it sands a little bit harder. So you got to pay a little extra more attention right where it touches another spot. And of course, he'll come around, and if he sees any major faux pas, like a gap in a cap strip or a gap in the sheeting or an uneven thing, he'll try to get some super fill on that before he puts the tissue on it next weekend.
It'll get tissue this weekend. They'll get tissue tomorrow.
Or tomorrow, yeah, I guess.
Should.
I'm not used to you coming over here 2 days in a row. But, so I guess he'll go home tonight then and do all that stuff and come back tomorrow with something ready to cover.
Maybe.
It's a good possibility we may put something on this airplane and yank every bit of it off.
Yeah.
And put something else on it. We really want to use that Japanese tissue on this, but Japanese tissue inherently does not do well around
Wing
compound curves and wingtips and stuff like that. It's very hard to do that, and with two of us working on it, maybe it'll be easier because you'll have two extra sets of hands in there to try to manipulate it around or something, maybe, or who knows. Maybe it might just go just as smooth as silk. But we'll find out. And if it doesn't work, we'll rip it off and go to lightweight Brodeck silk span. A little bit heavier, but not a lot.
Takes more dope to fill, though. That's,
Yeah, well, it's all about shooting for that 6-ounce finish. And the only way you can do that is less dope.
people don't believe me I get 6-ounce finish. No, you don't.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it does. He's got me doing them, and I was a 10-ounce finish guy. That's 3 ounces less, man. That's a bunch.
But you have to be willing to stick to it.
So remember,
Diet.
you can use as much thinner as you want. You can't use any more pigment than what he allows you. But you can thin the crap out of it and use as much thinner on it and spray the amount of dope on there that he gives you. But if you don't have to use that amount, doesn't mean that you have to finish it off. You know, if you got good coverage and 2 light coats and it looks good and you got 1/8 of a pint left over, don't shoot that 1/8 of a pint on there just for the heck of it. Leave it off. If you were here, you could really see this balsa wood has changed colors. And that's only a couple coats of that tinted white dope on there. You can see it's got a sort of a little white hue to it. And that's even after sanding it. So, I mean, all this is about weight. And the way you control weight is this tinting. I know we've covered this before, and we'll say it again. It's just starting your base color from the very beginning. And then that way, it takes less of the very last color code, your white base. This works. If you round all these cap strips off real good and round this sheeting off real good, if you ever look at an airplane that's not had that done to it, you'll notice that the silk span pulls down really hard right in these corners, right on these edges. Well, if you round them off, it sort of comes over and the silk span tends to go out there and sort of stay a little flatter, not adhered to that hard edge. And I think it shows up better, it gives a better appearance, you know. Maybe somebody disagrees with me, I don't know, but try it sometime. And I mean, really round them over pretty good. They don't have to be a complete arch on them, but all these sharp edges have to be broke pretty good. And I normally take a little 1-inch wide stick with some sandpaper on one side of it and just lightly start sanding a little radius in them edges, and I just take my time and go around every single little opening.
I'm going to have to superfill this.
Is that a big gash?
Yeah.
You have something on? Oh, that's in the trailing edge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, now's the time when you start picking up on all that stuff. Right now, you're going to start seeing all your mistakes come out right now, or you set it down on a piece of something that's laying on your building surface, you know, an X-Acto knife or just a little piece of dirt or piece of balsa wood and puts a big ding in it. This is where you start noticing all that stuff. Some dents. Here's a little tip for everybody. I'm a diabetic, so I've got syringes around all the time. But if you can get your hands on a little diabetic syringe or something, or a couple of them, keep them in your workshop. And here's what I do. when I get small dents, and it'll actually take out a pretty good sized dent with multiple applications, but I'll take it and put water in it. And I'll stick it in that dent and squirt water down in there and get it nice and soaking wet. And I guess probably just puddle it on the surface. It might work just as good, but I sort of inject it into the grain. And then I take my monocoat iron and get it really hot. And I go down there and put it on there, and it'll sizzle and pop and everything else. When steam will come off of it from the water, and you'll look and the dent will be gone, or half of it's gone. Well, apply it again and hit it again with that iron. A lot of times you can get some pretty good sized dents and dings out with just doing that, and then hit it with some sandpaper. Sometimes they'll even bring it up proud where it's higher than the surrounding surfaces, and you'll have to bring it back down again. But if you do that, then you're not putting Bondo or Superfill or whatever you're using, liquid nails or who knows.
Concrete.
Putty,
Spackle.
drywall compound, whatever you're using, remember all that stuff's weight. So if you can get by without having to use it, the better.
Drywall compound is rock.
Yeah, that's gypsum.
Spackle is no good, it's rock.
I don't suggest using something like micro balloons and epoxy for that kind of stuff. You want something that's
Too hard.
more the hardness of your wood, which Superfill seems to be about the ideal thing. I think it's also called Air Epoxy Light or something like that too. Superfill is what they use on real airplanes. I think Air Epoxy is too, but I think they just rebranded it.
Superfill is $20 a quart. Brodac Superfill is $20 a half a pint.
Yep, twice as expensive. Go to Wix, buy it from Wix.
Aircraft spruce.
Aircraft spruce. Get more for your money. And trust me, you don't use, almost everybody, I guarantee you, they'll end up with a pile that's 3 or 4 inches around and an inch thick, and they'll go put it on, they'll do all the fillets on their airplane, and they'll still have that same amount left. And then you throw it in the trash. So mix it up in little small quantities. It's a 2-to-1 mix typically.
This is 2 coats.
And I use it all the time. This stuff does not weigh anything, and it sands great and feathers out. You don't get dips where you go off onto the wood. It feathers right out into it.
2 coats.
Starting to feel it. Getting there. Nothing like the smell of fresh butyrate paint.
Love it. For us glue heads.
makes you feel at home. Now all we need is an open bottle of Ambroid somewhere.
I got that back in St. Louis.
I got a couple tubes downstairs. You got to keep a tube around. You set it out and put a little puddle out on the desk every now and then.
Just to remind you of 1970.
Yeah, your childhood. I think you can still get Ambroid.
I don't think so.
They could a couple years ago. You used to be able to get that stuff in a gallon can. I know it came in quarts, not just in the little tube.
Compound is dope, isn't it?
It's a nitrocellulose based glue. That's why you coated it on there. You'd put a coat on there and let it dry, or double glue a joint. You put a coat on there and let it dry, and then come back, put a coat on it again, and it would eat into the first coat and soften it up, and then put it together and make it stick better. The first coat has some time to soak into the wood, and they called that double gluing. And I don't know, I saw some guy made a post the other day Oh, I glue my airplane together and I get her all glued up there with that there Elmer's glue, that tight bond, and when I get her all done, I put a nice big fillet in all the joints with
80 ounces.
You don't need to do that. In fact, you put the glue on and anything that squishes out, and then I'm talking a really tight joint, anything that squishes out, you wipe off and you'll still have more than enough glue in there than what it needs. If you're using super glue, watch it wick. I've done whole airplanes in nothing but thin super glue for the most part.
And if you use a bottle or two, you're using too much glue.
Yep. Some thin super glue, you can build a full-size plane like this with about a half a bottle. Maybe a little bit more if you come back. But to build this airplane, it's a combination of 3 or 4 different kinds of glue because you're going to use thin super glue, thick super glue, epoxy, tight bond, or some kind of a white base glue.
Go downstairs and get that batteries. You're going to need batteries. It's starting to blink.
Is it blinking?
Yeah.
Where are they at?
They're right on the workbench there in the box. John's headed down to get some more batteries so you can hear him. I'll check the messages now and see what we got. We have been on another hour and a half. Hello, Richard. I'm pretty happy with this. This is coming out pretty nice. Hey, Jack. Glad to see you could make it back. You guys notice there's a few guys whose names pop up in green. That's because they're members here. Please join the channel. Did you swap them out already?
No, I just brought them up here.
Let's see. Uh-oh. Yeah, you went away. Give John a second. He'll rejoin us here. He's reloading his batteries. This thing eats batteries like crazy. Yeah, it's searching for John now. I do the best I can with what I got. I'm not a pro. I kind of took on the video as a second hobby to the hobby so I could bring model airplanes to the world. There you go. And you're on. Okay, we got John back.
Hello there.
I wish I had some camera help. That would be nice, but Nobler looks great. Yeah, but see, if you look at the chatters, Miguel is a member. Richard RC Fred is a member. Miguel again. We got Jack Snavely as a member, and he has a little 2020 icon from Stunt next to his name. So you'll get that if you join as a member. Plus your name will immediately pop up in a green super sticker. So, and of course you're going to get the extra videos that I put out for the members. I'm not sure what I think I'm going to work on the Bearcat videos for the members. I hope you guys didn't get too mad at me for posting that Al Ray Mustang first of many video as a public video, but I kind of needed a teaser to show them what the memberships are going to entail. So if you want to see more content like that, become a member. Of course, the super chats help. See, what's happened is YouTube has put the clamps on things and made it very hard for a little channel like mine. Yeah, we got 3,500 members or 25 or whatever it is to survive. We're being pushed down in the algorithms, and so we're not discoverable. And that's why I always say like, subscribe, and share, because that boosts the channel viewing area. And it'll show up in selected or suggested videos and YouTube search ahead of other people. The more likes and subscribers and members I can get. So help me keep Control Line alive. This is a dying art. Okay, we got 2 coats of dope on everything. I'm going to go for another one. See, it's a 3. At least get 1 more on it today.
Four coats on these pieces is looking pretty good as far as for applicating and applying the applying the tissue paper and such. Now listen, we're doing this little experiment, and it in no way is trying to say that one thing's right or another thing's wrong or anything like that. It's just, you know, you can do things however you want. It's your prerogative. But it's just to show, you know, sometimes things are deceptive about what you might think. Now your mileage is going to vary on this, one person to the next. And especially, I'm going to say it right now, especially with the carbon fiber veil, because once you start sanding it, all bets are off.
Oh, we're not going to sand that.
So it's not getting sanded on this application. And you should never sand that stuff before you got about 3 coats of dope on or 4 coats of dope on anyway, because you'll literally in a swipe of the sandpaper or 2, you'll take it all off. You won't have anything left but a gray tinge. Anybody that's ever used this stuff will find that out real quick, and it's sort of expensive.
Yeah, I got a roll there.
Put a whole roll of carbon fiber veil on your airplane and sand 90% of it off of it seems a little
ridiculous,
counterproductive. Personally, I don't care for the stuff myself. I've used it. I've got airplanes downstairs. They came out beautiful. It's got its learning curve just like anything else does.
Well, this center wing is going to get carbon right here.
Yeah, but you're making it so the surface is hard. You're not using it for structurals, well, bending strength or that kind of strength. It's just a surface hardener, grain filler. That's our opinion, so Sparky pretty much thinks the same way. Dent proofer.
Helper proofer.
But it fills grain really well. I mean, I like it as far as filling the grain and all that kind of stuff. But as far as you know, major structural strength, and if I remember right, and you don't want to quote me on this, but carbon fiber veil is a surface finish for molding and stuff like that. It's a, you know, just that chopped super fine grain stuff that's made to fill voids and make a super smooth finish on a surface.
It's cosmetic. It's not.
So yeah, it's cosmetic. It doesn't
Not
have
structural.
anything to do with structure. Your cloth, the carbon fiber cloth, and that you use, that's where your structure comes from, and its grain direction and plays a whole part, whether it's a 2x2 or a 2x4 or 6 or whatever, the type of twill or will or whatever weave that you get is where your strength comes from. Some weaves will give you strength in both directions, and others only give it to you in one direction, and compression. A lot of them, it's not compression, it's a tensile strength or a stretching strength more so than it is a compression strength. And fiberglass cloth is the same way. You can get different kinds of fiberglass cloth, different weights. Same, Kevlar, carbon fiber, all that stuff's all got its special nomenclature and stuff. The guys that really get into the carbon, can tell you more about the weave and all that stuff. I'm sure Trayan or Doran, whatever.
Whatever.
Both the same guy. He's got a very beautiful all carbon fiber airplane. It's very well done. Done in aluminum molds and everything. It's beautiful. But he knows all about the different types of weaves and that kind of stuff. And of course, epoxies make a big difference too. What type of epoxy are you using?
I so wanted to ask him last night. I guess he's built a new fuselage. I wanted to ask him, did you cut 2 inches off of it?
No, I don't think he did. I think it's the same airplane. I don't think he built one. I thought he just took one that he had laying around and put it on there. It should have just bolted right up, I'd have thought.
What do you mean, folded right up?
Bolted right up.
Oh yeah, should.
It's made out of the same, everything's out of the same mold. He was working on a stab and elevator mold. It looked like he was wet sanding it or something, polishing. A lot of guys, think that that's easy. What he's doing is an easy thing, and he makes it sound pretty easy because he's used to doing that stuff. But there's a lot of hours go into polishing those aluminum molds and getting every single little discrepancy out of them, because whatever's in there is in there. You mold it, it's in there. It comes out on every single part. So you got to give kudos to the amount of labor and everything for a tool and die maker goes into making those things to mass produce parts. It's a phenomenal feat.
The average guy couldn't afford to build that airplane. There's probably $30,000 to $50,000 worth of CNC time alone in it. And then the chunks of aluminum are probably $5,000-6,000.
Then however long it took that guy to sit there and grind and polish all those molds out, and the hours and hours. He's probably that's probably not even a new mold that he was working on the other night. That's probably another mold that's pulled so many parts, and then he's, trying to get a smoother finish or had some flaws in it that he noticed in the final parts, and he was trying to get those out of it. Possible, I don't know for sure. Maybe.
Paper towel would do that. I'm getting dope on this handle, and the finish will come off the.
Well, what the heck are you doing dipping it in there that far for? You're not supposed to go up to the metal.
Yeah.
You're not.
I usually chuck these up in a drill and then buzz that.
Well, listen, I just took it out of the package, and I'm not going to do all your job for you.
Yeah.
You got to do something on your own.
I buzz up, take the sand, all that shit off.
Take some lacquer thinner to it and wipe it off.
It'll be fine. I'm burnt
That's
out.
a 1-inch wide Camo hair paintbrush from SIG. It's nothing special. It's what we've been using for eons. I used one of those when I was 6 years old. Same style brush, same Camo hair. It might be squirrel hair now or something, who knows, but it was Camo hair back then. All the hobby shops sold them for 25 cents or something like that. Now they're $6 a piece. You can get them from SIG.
I'll bring you back some Schaefer's brushes. They're artist brushes that are similar to this. The bristles are about a 1/2 inch longer. The handle's a little longer. Still has this crappy finish on it, but it's synthetic, and the bristles don't come out, and they're about $4.
What we need is one that's a little bit wider than that, about 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches. Not too much wider than that. That's almost the perfect size. Just a little bit more, just help you cover more area.
Roll it on.
I don't like a 4-inch brush, you know. But
whitewash it on.
a little bit wider, that just makes it go a little bit quicker. You know, I mean, that's been the standard base coat through the tissue paper top coats paintbrush for as long as I can remember.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much just the standard fodder. These things right now have 4 coats on them, and they got a nice shine to them. I think that'll work. 4 coats. That's your glue base for your tissue and stuff. We'll let that dry real good before we cover them. I have to get all the materials arranged, set out here. We got 4 different kinds of materials. Said before, Japanese tissue, lightweight silk span, medium weight silk span, and carbon fiber veil. This is a 2/10 ounce carbon veil. Scissors are right over there. These are very sharp.
This is about $60 worth here, maybe a little more.
4 yards, 3 yards.
Well, if that's what's left on here. Now, the tissue, that is a different story.
Unobtainium. We just heard recently that the guy that was making this Japanese tissue has passed on, or went out of business, quit doing it. I think he passed away, but
Okay, I gotta have enough to do the airplane.
the funny thing about this stuff is that it's 30 inches long.
Yep, 30 inches long. They don't make Japanese tissue 30 inches long.
Most of that cut, 16 or 18 by 24 is a standard size for Japanese tissue.
Yeah.
Which, you know, meant that to cover a 60-inch wing, you had to piece it, which is sort of pretty hard to do.
Okay, so I need 4 for the wings. 1. Don't want to get any dope on it yet. There's a 1/2 a piece. Here's your piece right here. That's a rudder. Yep, I got enough. Yep, I got enough for this airplane. Okay. This stuff weighs nothing. If you're a ham-fisted guy, I don't suggest that you cover your airplane in Japanese tissue.
This stuff does have an inside and an outside.
I'm going to cover the rudder. Should be good
Okay.
enough.
If you look at it, there's a shiny side and there's a dull side. Does have a grain. The grain normally runs lengthwise on the tissue paper. So on all these test samples, we're going to run the grain lengthwise.
Hold on to that. I think I spent $150 on this stuff.
Yeah, we got about 30 sheets of it. But it's not cheap. It's $60 or $6 or something a sheet, or might have been a little bit more, but I don't think that it's being produced anymore. I think that's lightweight. I think this might be medium, but I need something to compare it to that's a known, because these come out of open boxes.
This phone got hot for some reason. It shut
Yeah,
down.
really? Wow. Huh. Using that battery. I'll be
Richard
back.
D says he's into composite for 20 years. If you want specific info, just ask him.
There we go.
I don't know why the thing would get hot, but it did shut down for some reason. So we'll see what happens here. It may or may not shut down again. If it does, I apologize, and we'll be back. I guess you couldn't hear me. I don't know why it shut down. It said overheated, but I don't know why it would overheat. Chinese crap, I mean stuff. When I was a kid, it used to be Japanese stuff. Now Japanese stuff's good. Okay, one more coat of dope on this, and that's it for today. So I've used half of my quart for substrate. Is that medium?
This is a thing of light.
You could do a Dr. paper too.
See, that looks different.
That's light.
You think? I don't have any medium, I don't think at all.
I'll take it out of my pack, whatever.
That's light. So then we got the light, we got the Japanese tissue, we got the carbon fiber veil. I don't have enough wood to cut. I cut it for 4 samples, not 5. I can tell you about Dr. paper. And Dr. paper is pretty much medium silk span for the most part. Or there's very little difference, if there even is a difference. Dang, man.
That's GM there.
That's what it sure looks like to me. That's not medium. But it's marked medium silk span.
Yeah, your ass.
I'm gonna have to open up both these packages because that sure looks like GM to me. I think the designation GM stood for gas motor back in the day. You had light silk span, medium silk span, or double A silk span, A silk span, right? And then C silk span, B silk span, C silk
It was
span.
double aught and triple aught silk span. OO and OOOO.
Yeah, that was your light and medium, and then you had GM, which was heavy. That's
Gas model.
yeah, it was considerably heavier. Almost like
It was teabag.
oh, definitely. Yeah. Doing here. Cooperate. What was this open piece that you had here that you brought over?
It was, I got one light and two medium. Need to save the one light in case this doesn't work.
Well, let me tell you. I've opened both bags of this medium up and it looks the same. Look at that.
Yes. That looks GM to me.
They're calling it medium, so we can only do what they're telling us.
Okay, I am done doping for today. Jack Snavely got his glasses on. I don't think I'm gonna. I was gonna cover the rudder, but I think I'll wait till tomorrow because it needs sanded. It needs a good sanding.
Yeah. All that sanding's rearing its ugly head. I always put my scrap pieces back in my bag with the tag that came off the package so that you know what's in the package.
This jump center here,
What's it say on the lid?
seat center.
Yep.
That's exactly where it is. What's in this bowl?
Water.
I kind of hate to contaminate this whole.
No, here. Clean a brush out right here. I keep that big jar full of cheap thinner till you fill up the little airbrush bottles for cleaning up and for cleaning, and then pour it in a little jar like this for cleaning paintbrushes and stuff so we don't waste a shit pot full of that stuff. There's a prime example of how much white color you're getting.
Well, in another 40 coats, it may be white.
Listen, you can tell it. You can see it tinting. Not a lot. It's just a tint. You get that silk span on there and get 3 or 4 coats on that silk span to boot.
I'm using this yellow stuff.
Yellow. Well, it's
Green.
yellowed.
This should say, this sheet thinner on top should say tinted clear. Like this, Is there a marker over there?
Yeah. One of them fat ones over there, if you look.
What?
One of them fat ones over there by that can of clear, that big gallon can of clear down to the left of it.
Tint clear 5.5.
Easily understood.
Huh?
Easily understood.
I'll just leave it here. I'll be back tomorrow. So. Some bogeys right there.
In there, these. You have to probably take and put something in there and glue it in there and sand it back.
Nope. I'll sand it down.
I thought you wanted it to come all the way back there to the trailing edge.
I do, but if they're looking that close, they're standing too close.
They're looking that close. See, this don't match up here.
Yeah, there it goes.
Jim Lynch will notice that.
Huh?
Jim Lynch will notice that.
Yeah.
See, there's big controversy about what's going to go on with that, with all this social distancing and stuff. We're going to be allowed to have the 180 building.
Nope, we're gonna have it outside. I bet you.
Going to be outside. Is it, I heard that the lady judges aren't going to be in that little trailer. They're going to be sitting at their specified little desks.
The tabulator.
Tabulators. Not going to be a lot of congregating in the pavilion. I got to sit down for a second.
All for work, manure.
Huh?
All for nothing. Well, we've been on 114 minutes. I think I'm gonna wrap it up. I think I've been on 114 minutes. I think we're gonna wrap it up. Appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, share. If you're not a member, please consider joining. Hit the join button down by the subscribe button. It's $4.99 a month for added extra content. And when contest season rolls around, that's where you're going to get a lot of benefits. Plus you got badges and extra emojis. I need to get some more emojis put up there, propellers and Pampa signs and so on and so forth. So anyway, appreciate you guys watching. Till I see you again. Fair winds, tight lines. See ya.